Let's everybody welcome Sameshwar Prabhu by saying 3 times Hari Bol.
Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Your devotees, please fold your hands.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all Krishna.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Then go ahead, please.
Can you stop sharing, Prabhuji?
Yeah, we can continue. Okay. Me,
Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam, all Krishna Prabhupada. Sorry, I'm late. I got held up in a call. Can you all see me, see my screen and hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jayaprakash Prabhu.
okay, so let's welcome Hema Jagannath Pr also saying 3 times Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari
Hari
Bol,
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayasva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtiki. Reading from chapter 18 titled The Perfection of Renunciation. And today's verse is a very, very powerful verse, very frequently quoted by many. Verse number 54. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Na Sochoti Na Kangsati Sama Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Na Sochoti Na Kangsati Sama Sarvesu Bhutesu Mad Bhakti Labhate Param. Word by word meaning. Brahma Bhuta, being one with the Absolute. Prasanatma, fully joyful. Na, never. Sochati, laments. Na, never. Kangsati, desires. Sama, equally disposed. Sarvesu, to all. Bhutesu, living entities. Madbhakti, my devotional service. Labhate, gains. Param, transcendental. Translation by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahmabhuta stage, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotees, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahmabhuta, oneness with the Absolute, without being one with the Supreme. The Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor. Thus, the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desires. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in devotional God service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He just like a river cleansed of all dirty water. Because a pure devotee has no thought other than Krishna, he is naturally always joyful. He doesn't lament for any material loss or aspire for gain. Because he is full in the service of the Lord, he has no desire for material enjoyment. Because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He doesn't see in the material world someone as higher and lower, someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and a devotee has nothing to do with the ephemeral appearance or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are of equal value. This is a Brahmabhuta stage, and this stage is attained very easily by the pure devotees. In that stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality becomes hellish. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpents whose poison teeth are broken. As there are no fear of a servant with the broken teeth, there's no fear from the senses when they're automatically controlled. The world is measurable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. The highest
There are
personality
18
of
participants, okay?
the highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant of a devotee. And for a devotee, such a state can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this age. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मृतं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय। वंशकल्पतरुश्च कृपा सिंधु वैवच पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमो। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha Bhagavad Gita systematic study. This we are coming towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, the chapter 18, and the 54th verse is a very, very powerful verse. Here, as you know, Bhagavad Gita is a call for action. So Krishna is stating some attributes, some facts, and based on that, if you follow that call for action, you would end up getting somewhere. So it's a basically call and response activity. It's a FAQ. You know, Bhagavad Gita is the best and the greatest FAQ in the whole world, frequently asked questions. So here, the prior three verses of this 51, 52, 53 talked about 12 attributes, the 12 attributes about, these are the things you have to do. And once you do these 12 things, which we are going to discuss a little bit, you're going to become this. This 54th verse talks about if you do those actions, and at the end of the day, when the call for action is satisfied, you become what? Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. We are Jiva Bhutas, right? We have so much of desires, we have so much of likings, dislikings, conditioning, judgmental. But once you do those 12 things, 51, 52, 53, three verses, beautiful verses, then Krishna is concluding here that if you do this, you go to a platform of Brahmabhuta. Brahmabhuta means you are with the Supreme, but that is a personal analysis. The impersonalist, they want to merge with the Supreme. So the Brahmabhuta's interpretation is different. So somebody who is not very pure, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pure, he is Satchitanand, his everything is transcendental. Think about the selfishness in merging with the Supreme. That's the impersonalist definition of Brahmabhuta. But the personalist definition of Brahmabhuta is when you are with the Supreme, but serving the Supreme. So there is a subtle difference. Merging with the Supreme is you becoming one with the Supreme, because these people, they want to be God, basically. But a devotee or a dasa, he is in the mood of serving. So he wants to be with the God, but not God. With God and and being God are two entirely different things, because the devotees never ever wants to become God. They always wants to be dasanu dasanu das. They always wants to be the servitor of the servitor of the servitor. So they want to be with the God in the mood of serving. Okay, so Brahma Bhuta means anybody who does all those 12 things in 51, 52, 53 comes to a Brahmabhuta platform, and then in that Brahmabhuta platform, he is Prasanatma. He's always joyful. He is very happy. And a couple of days back, you might have seen the flyer about Festival of Joy, Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra in Dallas. Joy, Prasanatma, fully joyful. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma. Nasochati Nakangshati. Nasochati means he doesn't. Sochati means laments for the past, for the bad things which happened, for the challenges he went through, for the sadness he went to. He never laments for the bad things. And na kangshati. Kangshati means, kangshati comes from akanksha. Akanksha means desire. Akanksha, kangshati. So he doesn't desires for the future. So he is neither in the past nor in the future. Beautiful words. And then samasarvesu bhutesu. That means he is equally disposed to an ant, to a reptile, to a bird, and he has piety on the bird. He doesn't eat those birds. He has compassion. He is equally disposed to one and all. Samasarvesu bhut. And then Krishna says, madbhaktim lavate param. That means Krishna doesn't say mat karmang lavate param. He doesn't say mat jnanam lavate param, but he says mat bhaktim lavate param. That means by doing all this, he attains or gains devotional service, mad bhaktim, bhaktim. He uses the word bhaktim, and that is where the action, the call for action, results in bhakti or devotional service. So the entire Krishna consciousness is encapsulated in this verse. And Srila Prabhupada takes it to a higher level by explaining about a couple of things that in the stage of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individuality. Because when you merge with the Supreme Brahman, then you lose your identity. That's a very hellish mentality, and Srila Prabhupada says it's equivalent to phantasmagoria. That means it's like a dream where you're basically your senses have taken over, where you really, so that's liberation. Whenever people talk about liberation by merging with the effulgence of the Supreme and being part and parcel, that's a very selfish attitude which many people who haven't understood the scriptures have. And that is where Krishna says mad bhakti lavate param. In that state where you attain after those 12 steps, you become joyful, you are equally indisposed, you never laments, and you never desires for the future. So the past is taken care, the future is taken care, you don't have to worry. A recipe for a very powerful Krishna consciousness. So the 4 verses, if you really want to drill down a little bit, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, always joyful in Brahman realizations, because we are Jiva Bhuta. In Brahmabhuta platform, we are Brahman realized. And in that realization, when you serve, sometimes when you try to fix a computer, or whenever you try to do some cooking, for example, if you have understood the internals of how the computer works, or how this recipe is going to take shape, the ability to give your maximum becomes magnified. So when we try to refine, because Krishna consciousness is a journey, and when you try to refine Krishna consciousness by virtue of different practices, very simple practices, Srila Prabhupada has laid out, then you become fine and you become realized when you hear more Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, you chant your rounds properly, you wake up in early in the morning and do this cleansing process And then at that level, when that level goes up, you become so much joyful that you never laments, you never worry about your past, you never you know uh, complain about your past. Krishna was very bad to me. He didn't give me a IIT admission, and so and so. We never laments about the past, uh, because if you look at the problems of the whole world, you realize how well we are situated. That every day in the evening we're getting a chance to discuss Bhagavad Gita. In the morning, Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many challenges in the outside world. So the people who are devotees, who are good devotees, they never laments, nor they desire. Na sochoti na kankshati. And samasarvesu bhutesu, equally disposed to all living beings. Srila Prabhupada, whenever there is to be a ant or a little insect going around, he will just step aside and he will go around it, because that insect has soul in his or her heart. And a good devotee, a equally disposed devotee, sees everyone equally, that they're not judgmental. And in doing this, mad bhaktim labhate param, then the level of devotional service is such that we think devotional service comes easy to us. So whenever you get something easy, then you do not see the value of the thing. So during Srila Prabhupada's time, the devotees who have gone through rigors, you look at the first Rath Yatra ISKCON did, you look at the first festival ISKCON did in New York City. There's so many challenges, and with the grind, with the challenges, these devotees who have had all the uh, material connection in terms of the eating habit, drinking habit, lifestyle habit, as they have shunned that, having come to that stage and gone through the grind of Krishna consciousness, it becomes a very pleasing experience at the end of the day. So if you get something with challenge, with a lot of difficulty, with a lot of hard work, you see the value of that. But if you get something easy, you really do not see the value. So when Krishna consciousness come easy to Prabhus and Matajis, it sometimes becomes a very easy activity, and and it becomes a race. I want to get my first initiation, second initiation. But if you give time, if you give time in cooking, the seasoning, the spices to really go in and understand in a very uh, fundamental perspective that this is not a race. If a train is going to Golok Vrindavan, doesn't matter whether you're in the first compartment or in the last compartment. So Krishna consciousness is experience, and not having a rat race of achieving something should be our goal. The goal is your relation with the Supreme, and that is a very personal goal and personal relationship. And here Krishna says, by doing all this, you develop bhakti, you will develop love for him, and that love is nothing but bhakti. So just giving some background, the 12 things Krishna spoke about as in this call for action. So what is he asking for? He is asking in the last 3 verses to be purified by sattvic intelligence, not get mechanical mundane intelligence. The mundane intelligence looks at a very localized perspective and try to give a verdict on yes, no. But the wholesome attitude of servitorship is more important. Whenever, if a person sees the interaction between Suparnakha and Ravana, would think that Ravana did the right thing by stealing Mother Sita because Suparnakha's nose is cut, in that siloed intelligence. But if you look at the entire picture, how a demoniac personality has conned everybody, she didn't talk about, then you realize the importance. So get some counsel in the form of sattvic intelligence, the form of Guru, through his Vani, through his Vapu, so that we become purified, So the sense, the consciousness and enhance the quality of consciousness enhances with the association of devotees, with the association of right counsel. And moving on, the second thing Krishna spoke about in the last 3 verses is about controlling the mind with determination, giving up sense objects, freedom from attachment and hatred, living in a secluded place. So living in a secluded place can be misconstrued in the sense that this doesn't say that you have to go to Himalayas to be secluded. The seclusion, you can be in a very crowded place, but the people who are in a crowded place often are so well controlled that they can chant that rounds very easily, and they eat very little. A lot of food you end up eating, it gives you a lot of health issues, and they eat very little, they eat only prasadam, and they control their body, mind, and words, which is BMW for us. So we have to always control our body, mind, and words, and we have to be absorbed in the meditation of the Lord, but to take shelter of detachment. Once you have shelter of detachment, then nasochoti nakangshati will never happen. And we have to be purified by intelligence and freedom from false ego, false pride, lust, anger, and material acceptance, and the feeling of proprietorship, that I have this position, I have this general position, I have this secretary position. The false proprietorship is something we have to get rid of from our minds. And then Krishna at the end says, peaceful like ocean without waves. When there is waves, the mind is the ocean is totally erratic. It looks like it is unleashing his power. But when the ocean, in many places, if you go to shallow beaches, you'll realize that there is no waves at all. And when the waves are not there, it looks like the ocean has turned around and is showcasing a different view of ocean. Is so calm you can't even think of. So you have a devotee at that state is often very peaceful, like ocean without waves. So if you do these 12 things, you call for action, you would end up getting these 4 things. So we talk a little bit about impersonalist interpretation of Brahma Bhuta. Impersonalist thing, they're becoming one with the absolute. So that means they merge with the effulgence of the Lord, and they become because they have done so many good traits in their life, that they become one and the same. And that is a very not clean experience in the minds of a devotee, because we see our heart is like a mirror. We know who we are. We really do not have to sort of sugarcoat ourselves. We know how much anarthas we have. We know how much the human beings have a very propensity to cheat. You might have heard about it. And when you think about who you are in the realm of a very quiet session, you realize there is so much of scope for improvement. We have anger issues. We have so many other challenges. So in that state, trying to seek the merging of ourselves with the absolute is very unthinkable for a devotee consciousness. So the personalist view, Brahmabhuta means to be engaged in pure devotional service by being with the Lord, not in the Lord. That is a very distinct difference, and we have to be with the Lord, because without being one with the Supreme, one cannot render service. So we have to get there. We have to aspire to go to Golok Vrindavan, not to enjoy Golok Vrindavan, but rather to serve the Supreme in Golok Vrindavan. So in the absolute conception, there is no difference between served and servitor, yet the distinction is there in a higher spiritual sense. So sometimes when you are at the similar platform because of your good deeds, your prarabdha karma, sometimes there is no difference between served and servitor, but in a true Krishna conscious literature, in a Krishna conscious understanding, there is a difference, and that is a higher cause, because whatever we end up doing, we cannot become the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because there is one and only Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the outcome for call for action is joyful. Since God is full, a living entity in God's service also become full by serving. And he, just like a river cleansed by all dirty water, has no thought other than Krishna. So in that sense, so whenever you wake up in the morning, your desire is to always go and take a shower. And so that's very natural, because at that time you're trying to cleanse yourself, because in the morning you want to get cleansed. So that is a natural tendency. So likewise, there are many things where naturally speaking, we are servitors of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes because of our false ego, we think that we are not, and that is when we have issues, and we go around. There is sadness, there is so much of anxiety, and finally we come in contact with a good devotee, and because of that contact, we come back and align ourselves, and then we realize that whatever we end up doing, we cannot become the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the only way we can become blissful is by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we are often secure under the eyes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have seen that example, whenever the kid is in front of the lion behind the nets on a zoo, and they're focusing on the eye to each other. After some time, when the lion runs towards the kid's in fearfulness. There are security guards with rifles. There is strong personalities, but the kid runs to the mom for security, for to be under the watch of the mother. So when you are under the supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you surrender, you are actually safe than sorry. So a person who has the right sattvic knowledge, as we discussed, have the right consciousness, will agree and will always try to be the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the servitor of the servitor of the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the second thing this verse talks about is to never lament or desire, never think about the past or the future. Often we, half the time in our life goes in thinking about how bad the situation was in the past to us, and always thinking about what I could do. We're never, so that's the reason why we never give our best whenever it is given, whenever we have an opportunity, because we are all toiled between. So here Krishna says, if you go into the Brahmabhuta platform, nasochoti nikankshati, you will never lament and you will never desire. So that's a recipe, that's a medicine, and we don't take the medicine, and we toil hard and hard, and so in that context, we should have. Krishna is saying, try not to have desire for material enjoyment, because he knows his own constitution or fragmental part and parcel, an eternal servant of the Lord, because the devotee is always situated in the service, or at least thinking of service of the Lord, and equally disposed, doesn't see someone higher and lower. We have the tendency to judge based on our appearance, based on the color of the skin, based on the country we come from. And if that would have been the issue, Srila Prabhupada would have never come here. Srila Prabhupada epitomized that everybody, whether you're born here and there, you have the right to be under supervision and the servitorship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he came all the way with so much of difficulty, and then he started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And the first set of devotees were not Indians; they were all from different parts of the world, and he was equally disposed towards every living entity, and there's no higher and lower. And when Mother Sita gave the ornament from her neck to Hanuman, Hanuman couldn't see Ramji in that ornament, so he kind of broke it. He was trying to find Ramji inside. For that level of servitorship, which is a tall order, stone and gold are of equal value, and that is how we should learn to be servitorship, learn to be servitors of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom there is not much difference between stone and gold, and they are all of equal value. So, and the attitude of pure devotee towards other positions, where Srila Prabhupada is giving this purport, is merging, become one with the Supreme, is a very hellish attitude. And idea of attaining heavenly kingdom because of liberation, moksha, and merging is like a bad dream. Srila Prabhupada is saying, and the senses are like servants, because you're trying to get something, but you can't make much out of it because your teeth is broken, because the attitude is like a servant whose teeth is broken. So you're seeking happiness everywhere, but the happiness is really within us in the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in our hearts. And everybody, whether it's us or an insignificant ant, they are all one and the same. And in the eyes of the Lord, they are one and the same. And he sees the entire world as Vaikuntha. So one example to leave, to kind of conclude. So when Bharat Maharaj had the desire to, he fell in love after he took, after he left his kingdom, and Bharat Maharaj is the king whose name our country Bharat is named. So he got attached. So he took renunciation, and he was living in a forest, and he had a good liking for, very compassionate liking for a deer, and there's a nice pastime there. We'll not go there, but with that liking, he got so much of thought process of liking that, because Krishna says antakale, right? At the end, however you feel, you become one in the next life. So he was feeling so much of closeness to the deer that he became a deer in the next part. So he was very realized. He was in Brahmabhuta platform. The deer was in Brahmabhuta platform. But fast forward in the next life, Bharat Maharaj, in his subsequent life, he also was Brahmabhuta. He was in a Brahmabhuta platform as well. So he was he knew how to speak, but he never used to speak. People used to think that he is Jada Bharat. He's unable to speak Jada. He is like a person who cannot speak, and he used to be heavily built. And initially in that life, the dacoits, the bandits took him to give sacrifice to Mother Kali. And when they are about to kill Jada Bharat, Mother Kali came from the altar and protected Jada Bharat. So he was very, very conscious. And finally, long story short, he was very stout, strong. He became the Palkin driver of King Rahugana, and he was taking him from one place to another. So when he was going, he was in such a Brahmabhuta platform that whenever there used to be ant on the floor or in the field where they were working, he was basically trying to jump so that he wouldn't end up killing the ant under the feet. So that gave some shakiness to Rahugana, and Rahugana was the king, and the other Palkin carriers were also having difficulty. So King Rahugana got angry, and he says, he kind of chastised him by saying, what's happening to you? Can't you do it right? And he used some words. So, and that was it gave a lot of heartache to Jadabharat. And the first time in that life, he opened his mouth. Till that time, everybody were thinking he's unable to speak. And he said, and when Rahugana said, who are you? I mean, why are you doing? I am the king. You should do the driving of the palanquin properly. Then Jadabharat said, you are neither the king nor I am the body. And when he heard it, when Rahugana was also a very conscious king, because at that time kings were all Rajarshis, they were all very conscious. They used to have their number one priest who used to guide them as the minister. And when that dialogue between Rahugana and Jadabharat came, hearing the consciousness, the principles from Jadabharat, King Rahugana got stunned, and it's all depicted in Srimad Bhagavatam as well. So Jadabharat in this, for this example, exhibited the qualities of being in a Brahmabhuta platform. He was, whenever he used to see ants, he used to see them as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purna Purushottam Krishna. And he used to go around, and he used not to be judgmental. Whenever you come to the temple, you should have the audacity to thinking that they are all part and parcel of the Supreme, and not think, he's not as qualified. He's qualified. He's second initiated. He's third initiated. He's first initiated. That mindset of being judgmental is a very tarnishing aspect on our sadhana. And in order to be in the Brahmabhuta platform, we have to be samasarvesu bhutesu. We have to be equally disposed to one and all. And in doing so, we will do mad bhakti lavate param. We would be always be in the, we would increase our devotional service quality in such a way that we would be always Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, Nasochati Nakangsati. That means we are always in happiness, Prasanatma, always joyful, and we will never lament, and we will never desire. Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, Nasochati Nakangsati, Samasarvesu Bhutesu, Madbhakti Lavate Param. Very beautifully explained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the call for action. So with that, I'd like to end here. Any question, comments, reflections? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Any corrections, comments, Prabhu, Matajis? Any thoughts? Any reflections about this verse?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sandeep Prabhu, Dandat Pranam.
Dandat Pranam, also Srila Prabhupada. Can you elaborate a little bit on fundamental differentiating, distinguishing qualities between personalist and impersonalist, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, a wonderful question. So, Prabhuji, you might have gone to our temple. In our temple, we have a little kid. I don't know his name, but I call him Brahma. And whenever you meet him, he'll start, Govindam Adi Purusam Tamam Bhajami. So he has acted as Brahma in many dramas and one-act plays in our temple. So and he looks like Brahma with beard and everything. So he has a personality, he has a personality. You all have a personality. A person who is cooking in our temple, he has a personality. In terms of the person who is organizing the deity paraphernalia has a personality. Everybody is a personality. And the impersonalist think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't have a personality. So that is the point I want to make, that how can somebody, how can a kid, how can somebody in our day-to-day life, our family, have personalized things? It's all about personalization in this world. How can the impersonalist think that God is Nirakar? He doesn't have a form. That is very very incorrect in my mind, and it's also very frustrating. So the impersonalist view is God is Nirakar. He doesn't have a form. They think the and a personalist like devotees like us or a Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna has a Tribhangi form. So he has a form to dance. He has a personality. The way he goes about stealing butter, he has a personality. Likewise, Krishna dancing with the gopis, he has a personality. So he has a form, and he likes to eat something. He likes to dress up something. So that's why. So our method of understanding is Krishna is a person, and he's a supreme person, and he's a supreme personality of Godhead. But the impersonalists think that Krishna doesn't have a form. He's formless. He's shunya, and that is the basic difference. And that is where we have to recognize that if a kid who is so devoted has a personality, he has such a good personality, this kid, that I don't know his name, I know him as Brahma. If he can have a personality, how can the impersonalist tell God doesn't have personality? That's the challenging part, right? Is that okay, or we want to go dwell more on it?
No, Prabhuji, good. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Sandeep Prabhu, good to see you. Any comments? Any thought process? Otherwise, we can end here. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasuchati na kangsati samasarvesu bhutesu madbhakti lavate param. So if possible, please by heart this verse. This is one of the very sought after verses, and coincidentally, it was assigned to me, but it's a very powerful verse for all of us to internalize and help in our sadhana, in our ability. Whenever you remember this verse, you think that you should not lament, you should not desire, you should be always joyful. Devotees are the gentlemen of the world, and they are always joyful. And so with this kind of attitude, we will always improve our sadhana and increase our quality of devotional service. It's all about quality. It's a personal experience. It's because everything is personalization in this UI UX world. Everything is a personalization. When Mother Yashoda, Damodar month is coming, when Mother Yashoda is feeding Kanha, and the milk on the stove is saying, you know, Mother Yashoda is giving the milk in such care and devotion that Krishna is not going to eat me, not going to drink me. So what good is my milk, the boiling milk in our thought process is a person? He's saying, so I would better suicide, because what good is my life when I'm not in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So he comes out and it boils over. So our Acharyas mentions that milk, being a person, is thinking that I would be of no use to Krishna because his Mother Yashoda is feeding Krishna. What good is my life? And the milk boils over and falls on the stove. So everything is a personalization. Krishna's flute is a personality. Sudarshan Chakra, Krishna's weapon, which you see on the left side of Lord Jagannath, is a personality. And always Krishna holds Sudarshan Chakra on the right hand, But here, in the form of Lord Jagannath, he's on the left side, and there is a pastime to it. We'll not go there. And there is a beautiful pastime why he's on the left side, because so Sudarshan is a person. If you pray Sudarshan, your challenges in life. So everything is a person for us, Prabhu. So just to add to that, and in our ability to see Krishna as a person, he wakes up during Mangalarti and he is given milk sweets, and just like how Balya Bhog is given, exactly thinking in those, and whenever he goes on yatra during Rath Yatra, Krishna is given certain items which is commensurate with the yatra, and he is given coconuts, and he's given because he's going on a yatra, so he has to cool down. So everything is personalized in our experience. He sleeps. When he sleeps, we don't do bang kirtan. We do soothing kirtan between 8:35 to 9. So it's personalized. The experience of devotional service in Krishna conscious movement is personalized to the pastime, to the situation, and it's so nicely choreographed to derive the best experience possible. So we can end here, Prabhu. Any other comments, final words?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all praise to Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful class as always, Prabhuji. This is, I have always admired the way you always say about our destination being the same, no matter, like where we are on the train, whether in the front or the back. And also I liked what you said about the rat race, the initiation, the second initiation. That is so true. Like I really like that comment of yours, because yes, sometimes we are in that rat race, trying to get ahead of each other and not relishing where we are. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for your comments. It is very common because in India, if you see everyone getting first initiation, second initiation is very difficult. Bhakti Sastri is a must. And here, because we are in a situation, often it is relatively easier, but it should be realized that it's not these certificates which makes us better devotees. It's our ability to spend time and do devotional service more and more. You'll realize that maybe 5 years ago, where you are with doing devotional service, your patience, your blissfulness has improved, and it is improved. So more time we give, it is definitely the devotion will taste better. More seasoning, more time we give, it'll taste better, and never ever leave this. So always do something or other to please the Supreme Guru Sadhu. So thank you, Mataji, for your comment.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very well.
Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhu, you can end here. Simeswar Prabhu, if you are there, or anyone else.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So nice, wonderful class. Thank you so much. If there are no other comments or concerns, let's conclude then today's class. Okay, so let's pray. Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Vaishnavvrinda ki jai. Indira Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. And the Gaudiya Vaishnavvrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanandi.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.